She thought walking out on her mid-date tantrum was unforgivable, so she dragged him to court, only to discover karma doesn't take her side. My name's Alex. I'm 36 years old, and I never thought I'd find myself at the center of something this absurd. A few months ago, I agreed to go on a date with a woman I'd met through a mutual acquaintance. Her name was Melissa, and at first glance, she seemed nice enough, stylish, confident, the kind of person who knows how to command a room. Our friend group had hyped her up. She's gorgeous, they said. Total catch. And sure, she was attractive. But let me tell you, beauty can only carry a person so far. By the end of that night, I realized I wasn't sitting across from a catch. I was sitting across from a ticking time bomb of entitlement. We went to a trendy downtown restaurant, the kind with soft lighting and overpriced cocktails. At first, it seemed normal, small talk, the usual first date questions. But not even 20 minutes in, I started noticing red flags. The waiter came by to take our order. Melissa didn't just order her food, she treated the waiter like a servant. Snapping her fingers, rolling her eyes when he didn't immediately write fast enough, saying things like, "No onions." I mean it. Last time I had onions at a restaurant, I almost sued. So don't screw this up. I laughed awkwardly, trying to lighten the mood, but she was dead serious. When he walked away, I said, "Rough day?" She looked at me like I was stupid. No, I just expect people to do their jobs. Is that too much to ask? That was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 came when she started talking about her exes, not in the casual, "we didn't work out" kind of way. She bragged about making one of her ex-boyfriends buy her a designer purse as a breakup tax. "Why should I waste years of my life on someone and walk away empty-handed?" she said, sipping her martini like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I raised an eyebrow. "So you made him buy you something?" "Not made," she corrected sharply. "I deserved it." And then, somewhere between appetizers and the main course, she crossed the line from red flags into full-blown sirens. The waiter brought her pasta dish, and apparently, it wasn't hot enough for her liking. She dramatically pushed the plate away, almost spilling wine onto my lap. "Unacceptable," she snapped. "I'm not paying for this. Do you understand? Get me the manager." The poor waiter looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. That's when it hit me, I wasn't just on a bad date. I was trapped in a nightmare. I quietly signaled the waiter, whispered that everything was fine, and pulled out my card to pay for my portion of the meal. Melissa, of course, didn't even reach for her wallet. She just kept ranting about customer rights and how she could ruin this place with one Yelp review. And then I did something I'd never done before. I stood up, pushed in my chair, and said, "You know what? I think I'm going to call it a night." Melissa froze, her mouth open mid-rant. "Excuse me?" "I'm leaving," I said plainly. She laughed, like I'd just told the funniest joke. "You're not serious." But when I walked toward the door, her laughter turned into a shrill voice behind me. "Are you kidding me? You don't walk out on me." I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. I thought that would be the end of it. Just a bad date, a funny story to tell my friends later. But Melissa? She wasn't done. She was about to drag me into something much bigger, something so ridiculous I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't lived it. Because a week later, I got a letter in the mail. Not a text, not a call, not even a passive-aggressive DM. A legal notice. Melissa was suing me for emotional damages caused by leaving her mid-date. When I first opened that envelope, I thought it was some kind of prank. Maybe one of my buddies found out about the disastrous date and was trying to mess with me. But no, it was a real document. Official letterhead. Court stamp. Melissa had actually filed a small claims lawsuit against me. The complaint? Emotional distress, public humiliation, and loss of self-esteem caused by abandonment during a scheduled romantic engagement. I sat there in my kitchen, reading it over and over, my coffee going cold. My roommate, Jordan, walked in and asked what was wrong. I handed him the paper. He read it once, then burst out laughing so hard he nearly choked on his granola bar. "You've got to be kidding me," he wheezed. "She sued you for leaving a date?" "That's what it looks like," I said, rubbing my temples. She's asking for $3,000. Jordan slammed the paper on the counter. Bro, that's insane. She can't do that. Can she? I wasn't sure. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe technically anyone can file a lawsuit for anything, but winning is another story. Still, I had to take it seriously. Court dates aren't something you just ignore. The weeks leading up to the hearing were surreal. Melissa blew up social media, painting herself as the victim. She wrote long posts about modern men lacking accountability and how I had traumatized her by publicly abandoning a woman who did nothing but expect respect. Her friends rallied in the comments, calling me names I won't repeat. I stayed quiet. I figured the court would handle it. But deep down, I was angry. Angry that she was wasting my time, my money, my energy, all because I didn't want to sit through a plate of reheated pasta and a tirade about how waiters were beneath her. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. Small claims court isn't glamorous. It's not like the movies where people shout, "Objection," every 2 minutes. It's just a cramped room with mismatched chairs, a tired-looking judge, and a handful of people waiting their turn. Melissa walked in like she was strutting down a runway. She wore a sharp red blazer, heels that clicked against the tile floor, and carried a stack of papers like she was about to take down a Fortune 500 company. When she saw me sitting there, she smirked. "Enjoying your last moments of freedom?" she whispered as she passed by. I blinked. It's small claims court, not prison. She just smiled wider. When it was our turn, Melissa launched into her speech. "Your Honor," she began with a dramatic sigh, "I was subjected to an appalling act of emotional cruelty. Mr. Carter," she gestured at me like I was on trial for murder, "stood me up in the middle of a date in public without warning. The humiliation was unbearable. I've suffered sleepless nights, panic attacks, and irreparable damage to my confidence." She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but I swear she wasn't even crying. The judge raised an eyebrow. "And you're seeking $3,000 in damages?" "Yes, Your Honor. For therapy sessions, emotional recovery, and lost time." I nearly choked. Lost time? When it was my turn, I stood up, palms sweating. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is ridiculous. I went on a date. I realized it wasn't a good fit. And I left. That's it. I didn't insult her. I didn't hurt her. I didn't do anything illegal. I just decided I didn't want to spend another hour being berated over lukewarm pasta." Melissa gasped like I'd slapped her. Berated? I was simply standing up for myself. The judge pinched the bridge of his nose. "Ms. Grant, let me clarify. You are suing this man because he chose to leave a date early?" "Yes, Your Honor." It was deeply traumatic. There was a pause. A long one. And then the judge actually laughed. Not loudly, but enough for the whole room to hear. "Ms. Grant," he said, shaking his head, "bad dates are not grounds for financial compensation." Her face went pale. But he humiliated me. Everyone saw." The judge leaned forward. "I don't care if the entire restaurant applauded when he left. You can't sue someone for not wanting to date you. Case dismissed." The gavel came down with a sharp crack. And just like that, it was over. Or at least I thought it was. Because Melissa wasn't done with me yet. She was about to take things to a whole new level of petty. You'd think getting laughed out of court by a judge would be enough to humble someone. Not Melissa. If anything, losing only seemed to fuel her. A day after the hearing, I woke up to a flood of messages on my phone. Friends, coworkers, even my cousin in another state were sending me screenshots. Melissa had posted a long exposé about me online. According to her, I wasn't just a heartless man who abandoned her mid-date. No, she claimed I was a serial ghoster, a manipulative narcissist, and, this was the kicker, an emotional scammer who tricked women into going out with him just to crush their self-worth. The post had thousands of likes and comments within hours. She'd tagged me by name. I spent that morning calling everyone I knew, explaining what really happened. Thankfully, most people who actually knew me didn't buy her nonsense. But the damage was still there. My inbox filled with strangers calling me every insult under the sun. Jordan, my roommate, shook his head. "Man, This is next level unhinged. You need to fight back. But I didn't want to get sucked into her drama. I figured if I ignored it, it would blow over. Spoiler, it didn't. Melissa wasn't done. The next week, I got a call from my job's HR department. Someone, I wonder who, had filed an anonymous complaint accusing me of creating a hostile environment for women. I had to sit through an awkward meeting with HR, explaining that the only hostile environment I'd created was a dinner table with one very entitled woman. Luckily, they believed me. But still, Melissa had tried to come after my livelihood. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just trying to embarrass me. She wanted revenge. And she got creative about it. One night, I was scrolling through my dating app, and I noticed something strange. Dozens of fake profiles had popped up, all using my pictures. Each one had bios like, looking to waste your time and ditch you mid-date. Swipe right if you enjoy being humiliated in public. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Melissa had stolen my photos, created these fake accounts, and was actively catfishing people as me. I reported them all, but it felt like playing whack-a-mole. Every time one account got taken down, 2 more appeared. The breaking point came when my mom called me one Sunday afternoon. "Alex," she said carefully, "why is there a Facebook post saying you scam women for money?" My heart sank. Melissa had escalated again, posting a fake testimony from a supposed woman who claimed I'd borrowed thousands from her and disappeared. It was a total fabrication, but to people scrolling Facebook, it looked real. That was it. I'd had enough. I wasn't going to sit back while this woman tried to destroy my reputation just because I didn't want a second date. So I made a decision. If Melissa wanted to drag this into the public eye, then fine, I'd give her more attention than she could handle. But this time, the truth would be on full display. And she wasn't going to like how it ended. I'll admit it, I'm not the kind of guy who usually makes a fuss. My friends call me laid back, sometimes too laid back. But Melissa had crossed every line imaginable. She tried to ruin my dating life, my friendships, even my career. Enough was enough. So I did something I should have done from the beginning. I lawyered up. I met with an attorney named Claire. Sharp as a razor, no nonsense, the type of person you want in your corner when life turns into a circus. I explained everything from the lawsuit to the fake profiles to the defamatory posts. By the time I finished, Claire's eyebrows were nearly in her hairline. "She sued you for leaving a date?" she repeated slowly. "Yep." "And then launched a smear campaign when she lost?" "Pretty much." Claire leaned back in her chair. "Well, she picked the wrong target. This isn't just petty. It's harassment. And those fake posts? That's defamation. You have a case." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. We gathered evidence, screenshots of her posts, records of the fake dating profiles, messages from people who'd seen her smear campaigns. Claire worked like a machine, pulling it all together into a neat, brutal package. Then she filed a cease and desist order, followed by a defamation suit. When Melissa got served, she reacted exactly how you'd expect, by blasting me on social media again, calling me a fragile man hiding behind lawyers. But here's the thing. The internet has a short attention span. By then, most people were starting to see through her act. Her posts were riddled with contradictions, her stories kept changing, and the whole poor me routine was wearing thin. Comments that once cheered her on started turning against her. "Didn't you sue this guy over a bad date? Get over it. Why are you still talking about him? It's been months. This is harassment, girl. Move on." The tide was turning. But the real blow came in court. When the judge reviewed the evidence, it wasn't a long trial. He looked at the screenshots, the fake profiles, the HR complaint, and then at Melissa. "Ms. Grant," he said sternly, "this is not how the legal system is meant to be used. What you've engaged in is harassment and defamation." Melissa's face twisted. But he left me. He humiliated me." The judge shook his head. "Being rejected is not grounds for legal retaliation. You wasted this court's time once already, and now you've compounded it by attempting to destroy this man's reputation. You are ordered to remove all defamatory posts immediately, pay damages to Mr. Carter, and you are prohibited from contacting him again. Do you understand?" Melissa opened her mouth, then shut it again when the judge's glare didn't waver. The gavel came down, and just like that, the tables had turned. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in months. The smear posts were taken down, the fake accounts vanished, and Melissa was suddenly very, very quiet. I'd expected to feel triumphant, maybe even smug. Instead, I just felt relief. Because the truth is, I never wanted a war. I never wanted drama. All I'd wanted was to leave a bad date. But in Melissa's world, rejection wasn't just rejection. It was a personal attack. And she'd burned her own life down trying to get revenge for something as small as me walking away. And yet, karma wasn't quite finished with her. Because a few weeks later, I got a message from someone unexpected, someone who had their own story about Melissa. And what they told me made everything fall into place. A few weeks after the court order, I thought it was finally over. Melissa had gone radio silent. No more posts, no fake profiles, no anonymous complaints. It felt like the storm had finally passed. Then, one evening, I got a DM from a woman named Rachel. At first, I almost ignored it. After everything, I was cautious about strangers reaching out. But something about her message made me stop and read. "Hey, you don't know me, but I used to date Melissa's brother. I saw what she did to you, and I thought you should know you're not the first." I raised an eyebrow. Not the first? Curiosity got the better of me, so I replied, and we ended up on a call. Rachel told me Melissa had a long history of punishing people who didn't give her what she wanted. Ex-boyfriends, coworkers, even neighbors. If someone set boundaries with her, she'd retaliate, sometimes with smear campaigns, sometimes with threats of legal action. Apparently, one of her past boyfriends had broken up with her, and she tried to sue him for lost future income because she'd expected him to support her lifestyle. Another time, she accused a coworker of harassment because he didn't invite her to lunch with the team. It was a pattern, a cycle, and I'd just been the latest target. Hearing all of that, something in me shifted. I'd spent months angry at her, frustrated, wondering how someone could be so vindictive over something so small. But now I just felt pity. Melissa wasn't just entitled. She was trapped in her own bitterness. Every rejection, every boundary, every no became a personal attack in her mind. And instead of reflecting, she lashed out, burning every bridge around her. But eventually, life catches up with people like that. Rachel mentioned that Melissa's reputation in her community had already started to crumble. Friends who once cheered her on were keeping their distance. Employers had caught wind of her antics. She wasn't the victim she painted herself to be. She was the common denominator in every disaster. For me, the whole ordeal was a wake-up call. I realized how important it is to set boundaries early and stick to them. Walking out on that date might have triggered a storm, but honestly, it was the best decision I could have made. Because if I hadn't left that night, who knows how much worse it could have gotten. Melissa thought suing me would teach me a lesson. But in the end, she was the one who walked away with a court order, a ruined reputation, and a harsh dose of reality. As for me, I moved on. I dated again, carefully this time. And when I met someone new, I was upfront about everything, my values, my boundaries, and the fact that I wasn't afraid to walk away if I felt disrespected. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up, push in your chair, and walk out. Melissa may never learn that lesson, but I did, and I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life.